if you believe this is the first time I'm trying to do this intro, you are absolutely mistaken. Hello everyone, my name is The Fiction Freak. Well, it's not my real name, obviously, but my mission on this earth is to take you into journeys throughout the beautiful world of fictions. And today we're going to be talking about a character that is quite dear to me because he belongs in a saga that is quite dear to me, because it accompanied me through my childhood and probably yours as well. We're going to be talking about a Harry Potter character, and we're going to be talking about Draco Malfoy, which is a character that might seem pretty stupid when you first see him, but he's actually way more interesting and complex than you might think. Well, if you didn't think about it that much, because he's an interesting character, just trust me. In order to analyze this character, we're going to be first seeing his history and, have an idea of how he reacts to things and what he did in order to have a really rich understanding of who he is, because we're going to see every single thing that the author intended us to see. In the second part, we're going to see who he is through his personality and his appearance. His appearance is going to be pretty fast for Draco, but personality there's a lot to say. And in the last part, we're going to be analyzing the character through two things. The first is going to be about what is his place in the structure of the story. What is Draco Malfoy's character useful for in the structure of the story? So you're going to see, it's pretty interesting. And in the second part in this, we're going to see what is J.K. Rowling's message through this character. What is she trying to say? What is she trying to convey as a message? So without further ado, let's enter into the long but interesting story of Draco Malfoy. Here we go.
Draco Lucius Malfoy was born on June the 5th of 1980 to Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy, his mother being from the Black family. Both parents were from old and wealthy families composed of wizards only, hence the pureblood terms. Also, both families were known to have their members being sorted in Slytherin House in Hogwarts for centuries. Yeah, that paints the picture pretty well. Draco was also raised in a family supporting Voldemort's rise to power, and still wishing he would have succeeded. The family kept their true allegiance a secret, given Lucius's position in the Ministry of Magic. His father Lucius was actually a Death Eater, and avoided imprisonment by claiming being under effect of the Imperious Curse when serving Voldemort. So basically claiming that he served against his will. That's a pretty easy way out. Draco spent his childhood being materially spoiled, influenced by the pure-blood obsession of his parents, but also deeply loved and cherished by the pair. He already shows behaviors such as stealing at a young age, stealing his father's wand to try magic even before he entered Hogwarts. He meets Harry Potter, main protagonist of the story, before he gets to Hogwarts. Though he's being friendly to Harry, our hero shows a dislike in Draco from the get-go because of his pure-blood rhetoric and his disdain for Hagrid, who accompanied Harry at the time. Just like his whole family, Draco is being sorted into Slytherin instantly arriving at Hogwarts. He also starts feuding with Harry and Ron from the get-go, making fun of Ron, resulting in animosity from the two friends. He is shown to have natural talents and intelligence in school practices such as Quidditch, where he's able to ride a broom quite impressively in his first lesson. He tries to sabotage Harry sneaking out to Hagrid's house, but ends up being in detention as well for sneaking out too. I swear he's smart, guys, just trust me, okay? He's then forced to go to the Forbidden Forest, where he feels scared and runs away in fear upon seeing Voldemort. During the second year, Draco becomes a seeker in the Slytherin Quidditch team, more or less buying his way in with new brooms for the team offered by his father, though he undeniably is a talented Quidditch player. As his feud with Harry continues throughout the year, he thinks that there's no way that Harry can be the heir to Slytherin, because he's Saint Potter, Mudblood's friends. He also established that he would like to help the true heir in his endeavors to get all of Mudbloods rid of in Hogwarts. Draco didn't know that his father was the instigator for the introduction of the Horcrux in Hogwarts, allowing Voldemort a chance to come back. During the third year, not much is shown from Draco. He continues to try to bully Harry and show weakness by being overly dramatic from a hippogriff wound, but also by being slapped around and scared of Hermione. He's also angry at the end of the year that the hippogriff escaped its death sentence.
Why does he have fangirls again?
For the 4th year, Draco is there for the Quidditch World Cup, making fun of the main trio when the Death Eaters provoke an attack on the campus. He supports Cedric Diggory instead of Harry during the Triwizard Tournament and tries to undermine Harry by spreading gossips of Harry to Rita Skeeter of the Daily Prophet, but also by helping passing out Potter Stinks badges. He's also humiliated by Buddy Crouch Jr., disguised as Mad-Eye, when he tries to cast a spell at Harry when his back is turned, being transformed into a ferret. He's then teased throughout the year by other students for that incident. He attends the Yule Ball at the end of the year with Pansy Parkinson, a girl he hangs out with often. He mocks Harry at the end of the year for not being on Voldemort's side and also mocks Cedric's death, resulting in him being cursed by Harry, Ron, Hermione, and the Weasley twins' spells. For the 5th year, he gets in a violent altercation with Harry and his friends for mocking Harry's mother's fate, getting Harry banned from Quidditch for the rest of the year. He also joins Umbridge's inquisitorial squad, catching Harry and his friends trying to get to Sirius Black. During the Battle of the Department of Mysteries, Draco's father, Lucius, is seen and imprisoned in Azkaban for his crimes. He swears vengeance against Harry and tries to attack him at the end of the year, but Harry's friends come to his defense and Draco ends up in a bad shape because of all the X's he receives in the face.
I still don't understand why he has fangirls.
This is where Draco's character takes a turn. For his 6th year at Hogwarts, Draco replaces his father as a Death Eater. Though he seems proud to brag about a new mission, he shows nervosity very quickly at the idea of accomplishing said mission, which is to kill Dumbledore. It is implied that Voldemort didn't actually put his faith in Draco to do such a hard task, but that it was merely a way to humiliate Lucius, who failed Voldemort in his mission to retrieve the prophecy from Harry the year prior. Harry tries to spy on Draco in the train but gets body-bound, unsuccessful in finding out what Draco has on his mind. Draco also trained for the mission by becoming a better duelist, training with his fellow Death Eaters. Another part of his plan is to use the Vanishing Cabinet as a passageway into Hogwarts for all Death Eaters in order to kill Dumbledore more easily. He would then use the one inside Borgin and Burke's in Diagon Alley to get out of the one in Hogwarts. In order to do that though, he needs to repair the one in Hogwarts which is broken. Draco shows signs of increasing stress and nervosity. He loses interest in Quidditch by allowing to be replaced, misses homework assignment, and does not attend his prefect duties which he very loved because of the power trip that it gave him. He also grows distant from Severus Snape, which he always respected at the end of Slytherin. He even becomes more paranoid of his own quote-unquote friends, Crabbe and Goyle. He even drops the bully act towards Harry and his friends. His physical appearance reflects the change in him. He's got graying skin, bags under the eyes, he looks very tired. He tries to kill Dumbledore with half-hearted attempts such as poison and a curse, but none work and both injure someone that wasn't targeted. Eventually the stress gets too much. Draco ends up confessing his fears to Moaning Myrtle to let go of the steam. But Harry catches him at that moment and a fight breaks out between the two rivals. As Draco tries to use an unforgivable torture curse on Harry, Harry stops him and wounds him badly with one of Snape's spells. He's then hospitalized because of it. After a lot of work, Draco eventually repairs the broken cabinet in Hogwarts and allows a couple Death Eaters to get into the castle. He corners a weakened Dumbledore in the Astronomy Tower, disarms him, but can't bring himself to kill the headmaster. Dumbledore senses a distress in Draco, trying to get him back on his side, but Draco tells his professor that he's been given a mission by the Dark Lord, and should he not succeed in this mission, he would be killed, and so would be his family. Snape interrupts the situation between them by killing Dumbledore, allowing Draco to be free from at least a little bit of the guilt. He then seeks refuge with his family and with Voldemort, not being able to live on the other side of the war. For the 7th year, Draco participates to Death Eater activities before the beginning of the school year. He even tortures on Lord Voldemort's order. He attends Hogwarts for this year again though, but is brought back to the Malfoys' manor during summer to confirm the identities of Harry, Ron, and Hermione who were caught by the Dark Lord's forces. When asked to confirm Harry's identity, he shows great hesitation to do so despite really knowing that it's him. When the trio escapes the manor, Draco is disarmed by Harry and loses his wand. He's given his mother's wand in the meantime. Later in the year, in school, Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle follow Harry in the Room of Requirements to try to capture him, along with Hermione and Ron. Though Crabbe talks about killing Harry, which Draco disagreed with, given the mission of capturing him and not killing him. Having lost control on his friend that he had for their whole childhood, Draco cannot stop Crabbe from conjuring a Fiendfire, a destructive spell that Crabbe cannot control and ends up dying to. Even though he tried hard to save both of his friends, only Goyle is saved, which upsets Draco a lot. He ends up saved as well by the trio. He's then later seen trying to convince the Death Eater that he's on his side, only for the Death Eater to be stunned by Harry. Ron then punches Draco in the face and calls him a two-faced bastard. Ironically, Draco is the reason for Voldemort's defeat. As Draco disarmed Dumbledore during Year 6, he became the rightful owner of the Elder Wand, the most powerful one in the world. But then Harry disarmed him in the Malfoy manner, so even though Voldemort was using the wand, Harry got the upper hand on Voldemort, being the true owner of the wand, and ended up defeating him. After the war is over, Draco and his family are shown in the hall, not knowing what to do during the celebration. This ends Draco Malfoy's story as a child and then a teenager. The events of Draco's teenage years forever changed his life. He had the beliefs in which he had grown up in challenged in the most frightening way, had experienced terror and despair, witnessed his parents suffering for their allegiance, and had witnessed the crumbling of all that his family had ever believed in. The Malfoy family avoided imprisonment in Azkaban due to the last-minute change in allegiance. Although Draco cherishes his family more than ever, he starts to stop believing in pure blood ideas and marries Astoria Greengrass, another Slytherin student who went in the same direction of not believing in pure blood ideas anymore. Astoria had an extremely frail body due to the toll of her family curse, and because of that, Draco refused to have a child, afraid that the delivery could kill her. Draco even told her that he didn't care if the Malfoy family ended with him. But Astoria, who knew that she won't live long, longed for a child so that Draco, after her eventual death, would not be alone. She was successful in producing a child, but the pregnancy greatly weakened her, and the family vanished into seclusion when Scorpius was born. Astoria refused to teach her son the pure-blooded beliefs that Muggle and Muggleborns or scum, much to the disappointment of Lucius and Narcissa, who found her a somewhat disappointing daughter-in-law. Astoria died during the summer before Scorpius' third year in Hogwarts, leaving her son and husband heartbroken. At the end of the story, Draco ends up teaming with his former enemies, the main trio, to fight Delphine and not allow Voldemort to come back. He then has a conversation with Harry where they talk about their childhood relationship, Draco revealing to Harry that he was jealous of his friendships since he didn't have anything similar. They finally end up on friendship terms, after years and years of a rocky and hateful relationship. Now let's enter the analyzers by talking briefly about Draco's physical appearance. Draco is a slender, pale, good-looking blonde guy. His facial features are described as sharp and pointy. During his 6th year though at Hogwarts, the pale from his face turns greyish, he becomes thinner, and his face looks more sickly. As an adult, his hairline is receding, highlighting his pointy facial features, and he wears his hair in a ponytail. I think the physical appearance of Draco is there to show that he belongs in the noble world because pointy and sharp features are something that is very stereotypical of rich people. I don't think there is much else to say about Draco's appearance but that he's there to reflect that he's from a noble family and a rich family, and also quite privileged. Now that we very briefly talked about his appearance, since there is not that much to say, let's talk about his personality, but there is a lot more to say. Draco is, for most of his childhood, an arrogant, proud, and spiteful bully. He believes himself as superior compared to other wizards due to his pure-blood descendants. This superiority leads him to bully other students, especially Muggleborns. A lot of his personality stems from his father, along with the bigoted views. He's also very quickly established as a coward and weak, running away in fear in a lot of situations. This weakness might come from the spoiled childhood that he had because of his parents, or at the very least it got his weakness worse. He has a certain lust for power and stardom, enjoying his prefect power and wanting to be a Quidditch star as well as a renowned wizard. As a child, he even advocates for helping the heir of Slytherin to kill Muggleborns, or at least so he says, but it's quite extreme for a child. He shows very little empathy, whether it is with his enemies, mocking Potter for his fears and losses, but also his friends that he treats as lackeys. On the bright side though, he's also cunning, quick-witted, and a very intelligent student. He comes up with an ingenious plan, such as the plan of using Dementor appearances to disturb Harry in the third year during Quidditch, or the plan to smuggle Death Eaters thanks to vanishing cabinets. Draco is also adept at compartmentalizing his emotions, as is evidenced in his success with Occlumency. He also shows a softer side early on, notably with his love for his parents, but also by letting Pansy Parkinson run her hands through his hair publicly, which may seem unlikely for someone like him. During the 6th year, his weak side begins to make him crack under Voldemort's pressure, revealing a paranoid and anxious personality that renders him physically sick and mentally unstable. Then, the smug personality showed previously reveals itself to only be a shield for who he really is. He begins to isolate himself and also to put in doubt his worldviews, especially on what he can do and can't. He was terrified that his family and himself would pay for his failure. He was also very affected by seeing his father, whom he respected a lot, being humiliated and treated like trash by Voldemort for basically most of his childhood. That will make you question your worldviews for sure. He loses his mind so bad that he tries to use an unforgivable curse on Harry, disregarding the imprisonment to Azkaban that comes with such a crime. His confessing to Moaning Myrtle also shows the weak side being completely exposed due to pressure. During the 7th year, he completely compartmentalized his emotion by carrying out Voldemort's order with disillusion and apathy. The doubt in his beliefs is even more highlighted when he doesn't rat out Harry in the Malfoy manner, his hesitation getting the better of him. He even shows true attachment for Crabbe and Goyle, despite the way he's treated them all their childhood. When he becomes an adult, he lets go of most of his bigoted views, and actually becomes a devoted family man, which will be his redemption arc. He falls deeply in love with Astoria Greengrass despite his parents being disappointed since she's not from one of the most pure-blood families. There are 28 of them. He was so devoted to his wife that he was willing to let his bloodline die for her, which was very different from Lucius's point of view, given how much Draco coped in his father growing up. That's one hell of an evolution. Though he shows empathy and is understanding when Astoria tells him that she wants to leave someone behind for him when she'll be gone, since she's sickly. When she's finally dying, and finally dies at the end, he is greatly tempted to use the time turner to spend just a few minutes with her again, but decides against it, showing a true wisdom forming in him, but also the sensitive part that was always in him since the beginning. Draco loves his son and considers the day he was born the best day of his life. He raises him by learning from the failures of his parents without spoiling him and far from the bigoted views, and also by being firm when needed. He actually shows trust in his son to live his life and relationship as he wishes, and even accepts his old rivals and enemies' presents for that, because Scorpius' friend is Albus, Harry and Ginny's son. At the pinnacle of his evolution and gain in wisdom, Draco has a scene with Harry in the Cursed Child where he acknowledges that he was jealous of Harry. for Ron and Hermione's friendship that he had, and wishes he had that with Crabbe and Goyle. They actually make peace with each other, which is saying a lot about how things changed, and he's now able to overcome his ego to forgive and recognize his mistakes.
So, now we're going to be talking about Draco Malfoy's role in the structure of the story. So, Draco Malfoy comes from a very long family of an archetype of character, which is the rival. A rival is a character that has the same objective as the hero, but different worldviews. So, when they want to attain that objective, they have different paths, and those paths are bound to clash. And that's what happened with Draco and Harry. But the interesting thing about a rival is that they help to enlighten things, to shine, to put the spotlight on certain things in the hero. So for example, where Draco Malfoy is very cowardly, Harry is very risk-taking and very brave. So you can see that very simply in the first movie/book in the Forbidden Forest, right? Where you have Draco seeing Voldemort and running in fear, whereas you got Harry like standing like this and not doing anything. Pretty weird actually, but the only reaction you can have to this is, wow, Draco is a coward, but Harry is very brave. You could just stand there where another guy is running away in fear. Pretty impressive. So it helps to put the spotlight on a good quality of Harry. Another example of that is that Harry is very empathetic, whereas Draco is a bully that just mocks everyone. And in the end, Harry saves Draco. So his quality outshines so bad the, flaw of Draco that he ends up saving him. So yeah, that's a pretty tough one. Well, let's not forget the fact that Harry and Draco are very similar in certain aspects, which helps to put a same fundamental but very divergent personalities after that. So Harry and Draco are both very resourceful, they're both very ambitious, they're both very, I would say, book smart. Yeah, it's a bit of a, I wouldn't say they're street smart all the time, but they're definitely book smart. So there it is. Another function of Draco throughout this story is dual. Mostly in the 5 first books and movies. So Draco serves a twofold role. The first is being an antagonist, or so we think as viewers, and so does Harry think as the narrator. Especially in the second book movie, so Chamber of Secrets, where Harry believes for the most part of the story that Draco is the heir to Slytherin and that he's the one wanting to kill people. So it brings a certain menace and a certain threat to the character. But there is another part of Draco's role in the story, which is that he is a comic relief. And that helps to alleviate a little bit the menace and threat that the character is about. And then he enters a redemption arc in the 6th book. And in order for a redemption arc to work, you need to sympathize with the character, have a reason to root for him. And the reason to root for Draco comes from his weakness, which was shown to us from the beginning, but not in a good light. Now it's shown in at least a better light, right? He's not able to kill fan favorite Dumbledore. He kind of crumbles on himself, like his whole worldview crumbles because everything that he thought and admired is just crumbling down in front of him, and it just makes us feel bad about him, you know? And in the end, in The Cursed Child, he actually becomes a much more empathetic character, and we can grow to love him a lot more as, some people loved him way before that, but who knows, Sometimes just complexity is enough to make us love a character. Another function of the character is that he allows to put a light on how dark Voldemort is, because you have Draco Malfoy who's mean, and you have Voldemort who's evil. Something much more dark. Something that comes from a lack of love, much more deep and profound. Whereas Draco is basically mean because he's weak. So it helps us to see how dark Voldemort is, and it's very important. Another function of the character also is that he is our, I would say he's our gateway in certain things. He's our gateway into the noble wizarding world. So what do the noble wizarding world people think? Okay? What is their worldview? Why do they act the way they do? Malfoy is just our first experience of that, and it allows us to understand, just like Harry, because we do not come from this world. We're discovering it along with the narrator, who is Harry. And yeah, it allows us to have a first entrance in that. It's going to be a little more deep afterwards with Lucius, where we understand a little more, and then Bellatrix Lestrange, and on and on and on. And also Slytherin. It's our first encounter with Slytherin. Who Slytherin people actually are. What are their traits in general. Like, same thing. Further on, we can see Snape, we see Voldemort, we see a little more about what Slytherin is about, what is their values and stuff. But the first thing that we see is Malfoy. And to finish this part, he's also a constant reminder for Harry of his childhood traumas. Because just like Dudley and his upbringing with the Dursleys, he's bullying Harry all the time. And he's bullying Harry to a point where he actually mocks the death of his parents multiple times. Like, yeah, not a good guy to be around. But still, he's there to remind the hero constantly of what his past is about, and that he needs to overcome this past in order to feel better in the moment. And now, to finish this, we're going to be talking about Draco Malfoy's message. What did J.K. Rowling want to say with this character? And I would say the first message that is conveyed through Draco Malfoy is simply a criticism of bullying. Because let's remember, at first Harry Potter was a franchise for young people, for kids basically. So the themes can be very simple and also very childhood oriented, and this is a perfect example of that. So yeah, Draco Malfoy is shown to be a weakling for most of the story, and you know, it shows that bullies are actually weak. Well, it's at least the idea. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's at least the ideas that is put by J.K. Rowling in the story through Draco Malfoy. And it's not done in a way that is demonizing bullies, because in the end, Draco Malfoy has a redemption arc where he actually ends up like a decent person and decently happy. So it's quite understanding still. It's not like a caricature. It's, you know, she's not demonizing bullies, but still criticizing them. The second idea is a criticism of elitism, of, you know, the noble people who are kind of smug and treat other people like inferior. So that's pretty obvious. It's contrasting as well with the whole, I would say, acceptance message that there is in the story, because Harry Potter is a very tolerant and accepting person. You know, with people like Dobby or Hagrid, who are misfits, kind of, you know, like people who don't belong too much. He's always accepting of them and very nice and very empathetic towards them. So it's a very nice contrast that allows to put in this message of criticizing the elitism that Malfoy represents, right? I would say another idea is the criticism of racism, simply. Because, let's face it, Draco Malfoy is very racist. The Mudbloods are taking a hell lot of bullying throughout his childhood, and yeah, pretty obvious, pretty simple, but still effective. Another idea of Malfoy's character is that you have to align your actions with who you are, because if you don't, you're gonna end up numb and empty and feel very, very depressed. And that's what Malfoy does. In order to save his family, and in fear, he follows the Death Eaters and becomes numb to it because, well, it's not who he is and not what he believes, and he feels really bad about the things that he does. Or at least somewhat bad, because he's just completely numb to everything that is happening in the sixth, or at least the seventh book, where he's completely with the Death Eaters, definitely. So, the idea that you have to align your actions with who you are. Also, an idea through Draco Malfoy's character is that fear is a very strong force and can be very dangerous if you don't handle it right. Malfoy is a perfect example again. He's been overruled by fear in the last part of the story, and it led us in a very bad place. A very dangerous place as well, because he didn't know how to control his fear. And that's where he ended up. So that's the other message. Know how to control your fear. Don't let it overrun you. Use it, because it is a very useful feeling, fear. But you have to use it right. And I would say the last message through Draco Malfoy's character is a message that is present in a lot of characters in Harry Potter. It is the importance of upbringing, of your family, your nuclear family, and how it forms you as a human being. How important it is in who you are and what you become. Malfoy is the way he is because his family is like that. If he had a family like the Weasleys, he would be very, very different despite who he is, like genetically. Where everyone has, everyone is inclined to be some kind of way. Maybe you're inclined to be a little more nervous than other people because of your genes. But upbringing is very important in forming who you are, and Malfoy is that. I think J.K. Rowling is just trying to say, yeah, try to raise your children well, because otherwise you're going to end up with Draco Malfoy. Not everyone wants that, right? So, there we are. Also, I would add a few more things to the messages that I forgot in the first take. I would first add that Draco Malfoy pushes the idea, the message that you can always be redeemed. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter who you are. You can... Well, Malfoy didn't do the worst things in the world, but he did some pretty bad things and still managed to find redemption. It doesn't matter who you are, what you did. You can always try to redeem yourself and do things that are positive for the world and end up in a place where your mind is at least kind of at ease. And another thing as well that I thought about is, well, Draco Malfoy shows a lot of regret in the way he treated his friends, Crabbe and Goyle. And he would have wanted to have a much more deep and true and honest relationship with them, as he says to Harry in the end of The Cursed Child. So I would say another message of this character is take care of your relationships. Take care of your friends. Take care of how you treat them, how you see them. Take care of your wife, of your children. Take care of your husband. Take care of who you want. Take care of the people that are near you, because the relationship you have with them has, well, it has no price. It's very important. And Draco Malfoy figured it out a bit too late, at least for Crabbe and Goyle. Well, that's it. Thank you for following this video. Thank you for watching as I took you along into this great journey that is this character, Draco Malfoy. Thank you, Draco, for everything you've given us. And yeah, see you next time for another great journey through another great character that is going to be as complex and as interesting as our friend here. See you later.